All right, everyone, welcome back into another NFL betting video. Going to be breaking down all the top prop bets here for the Sunday night showdown between the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's go ahead and get into it. So let's start off with a quick game preview, guys. The Green Bay Packers are going to be about 1-point favorites in this game. Looking at the game total, it is about 45.5 total points. So for like game script bets, that is tough to do, although I could see this game having multiple outcomes. I could see the Green Bay Packers putting it to the Eagles. I could see the Eagles putting it to the Green Bay Packers. I could see it being this toss-up game, and that's just because these teams have been, I guess, a little bit hit or miss. I think it's a good thing for the Eagles that they're coming in off of a bye week. I think that's going to end up being a pretty darn good thing for them, but I also think the extra day off for the Green Bay Packers is also going to end up being pretty good. The Green Bay Packers are getting healthier. All their receivers are basically healthy now, it seems like, besides Jaden Reed, who's still in the IR, and it does give Josh Jacobs one more day to be more healthy. He has had his snaps limited, and that really seems to be the make or break point for me in regards to like who's going to win this game. It's just how healthy Jacobs is in regards to how much of a workload he can get, because he's been getting about 57% like the last couple of weeks, and so we need him to get more than that if you think, I say we, I'm a Packers fan, if you think that the Packers are going to win. That being said, the Eagles are coming in off of, I think, a well-timed bye week, and I could see AJ Brown start to like get things going even more so. Devonta Smith has looked great lately, and then Saquon Barkley, I think like the bye week was really key for him. So I honestly see all possibilities in this game. Now, that being said, the Green Bay Packers are missing Tucker Kraft, who has basically been one of the best tight ends in the league. So thus, he's been one of their best offensive weapons. So that is a big loss for the Green Bay Packers. Now, I did want to show you guys the plus EV bets that we were getting here for this game. On some sites, you could bet on like the Green Bay Packers -1.5 points, plus 100 on ESPN Bet. Not a terrible bet there. You could potentially bet on the game total under 45.5 total points. Again, guys, this is the one game this year where I feel like I'm completely kind of lost in regards to how to go about betting on it in that sense, like game total spread, because I do think it could end up being a toss-up. I think either team could end up winning pretty big. It just seems like you don't want to go too crazy with this. Is one of those games where it's just more fun to sit back and watch. Hopefully it could end up being ugly. The first two primetime games thus far this week have been a little bit brutal to watch, so hopefully this ends up being a little bit better, but I could see this under bet actually being good, because I could see it being kind of an uglier game as well, where both defenses are playing well. And that's what I mean, guys. I should touch on that. Like, both defenses are just very good, so it's hard to kind of figure out how both coaches are going to choose to attack those defenses, and that's truly the tough part with the strengths that they have, if that makes sense. And so I do want to start off with that Tucker Kraft replacement, who is probably going to be Luke Musgrave. I do think we're going to see a little bit of John Fitzpatrick as well, who has been pretty darn solid. Luke Musgrave was the tight end that was actually drafted before Tucker Kraft. If you guys have been following the channel, you guys know that since Tucker Kraft's rookie year, I've been saying he should be the tight end number one for that offense. I never really liked Luke Musgrave all that much, but he isn't like he's I guess a poor man's version of like Tucker Kraft. They do a lot of the same things similarly, although Tucker Kraft is much better. The biggest difference here is I think Matt LaFleur is going to be less likely to design plays for Luke Musgrave as opposed to how he was designing plays for Tucker Kraft. Now, I should talk about Luke Musgrave and the amount of snaps he did get after Tucker Kraft left. 78% of the snaps. So he was in that Tucker Kraft role. Again, don't be surprised if John Fitzpatrick is involved as well. But I'm looking at the lines that we're getting for Luke Musgrave. They do kind of feel correct. At the same time, this under fantasy score is somewhat appealing. So I think the offense is not going to revolve around the tight end position, okay? In this game, I think it could end up being Christian Watson, which I'll touch on in a second. If Josh Jacobs is healthier than he has been the last 2 weeks, it should be a Josh Jacobs game, okay? So that's where I'm like, okay, this bet, we have a 53% likelihood for the under hit. I'm okay with that. And that's another thing, guys. In this game, we really aren't getting any like plus EV bets, and I'll show you guys real quickly. The best plus EV bet that we're getting is Saquon Barkley for under his fantasy score. And I don't really want to mess with that. I think that's the correct line. It's just whether or not he scores a touchdown, as I've mentioned a bunch. And so I'm okay betting on Musgrave to get under 7.5 for his fantasy score. But at the same time, guys, I do think betting on him to score an anytime touchdown is a logical bet as well. I do agree that it's not a likely thing to occur, but also red zone, it's basically Jacobs, Dobbs, or tight end. And now he's going to find himself with more playing time. The issue with Musgrave, guys, I'm spending too much time on him. He can't stand on his freaking feet. He's always like making a slight mistake on a play when he's trying to catch the football. He can never catch it clean and just turn upfield and make a bigger play. Okay, it's very annoying. It's very frustrating to watch him nearly be a good player. Okay, maybe this is all he needs is like a confidence boost, but whatever. I don't mind his over 2.5 receptions. I just think as a whole, his under fantasy score does make sense. So that gets me into, guys, Christian Watson. I think with Watson, he's like the one player where we are probably getting some pretty big edges with him. And I say probably because we are going to see Dontavian Wicks most likely return in this game. He should be good to go, guys. So he's seeming like he's going to play. Williams is looking like he's going to play as well. And then on top of that, Matthew Golden, who ended up leaving the game, is also looking like he's going to be good to go in this game as well. Now, if one of those sit, that does obviously help out Christian Watson. Christian Watson did end up having a pretty high snap share in that last game with Golden getting injured. 65% of the snaps and 79% route share. Now, that is something to me that should continue. He is, I would argue, their best pass catcher now that Tucker Kraft is out. And so I'm looking at this 2.5 receptions, and he should be able to get the over. Like, he should. I would bet on him to get over 3.5 receptions as like a increased risk bet. And we look at it, the over does have about a 51.3% likelihood to hit. And so on these single game slates where we're typically not going to get a big edge on PrizePicks or Underdog, or really any other sites for that matter on a single game slate, I'm fine taking this bet on PrizePicks or Underdog specifically because the over is the favorite and it is a bet that I do see hitting. It should. It's more or less a bet on his snaps being there, and with Tucker Kraft being injured, he might become, I know Jordan Love loves Romeo Doubs, but he should become like the top pass catcher now that Tucker Kraft is banged up. And then I did mention Josh Jacobs, and I do want to spend some time on this because Josh Jacobs, again, has been limited lately, but his rush yards to me do seem to be pretty low. He is someone that I would expect to get a heavy workload in this game and kind of get that heavy workload earlier on in the game than really what we've seen. It's kind of been weird with Matt LaFleur. He's scheming up a lot of plays that are open. Just linemen have just not been able to make the blocks where the plays are. They've just been whiffing. A lot of the stuff that the Green Bay Packers have been struggling with this year, or it kind of reminds me of last year's Eagles as well. But I expect it to kind of be a reset with this extra day off where Josh Jacobs is more of a focus. And so I do think I end up liking him to get over 68.5 rush yards, but that is pure speculation that he's going to end up getting more snaps than what he's gotten. And I will say this line for Jordan Love does seem to be pretty darn low. But the matchup with the Eagles is tough. And again, we don't exactly know what to expect in this game in general. And then that being said, let's jump into the Philadelphia Eagles. And I will say, this line with Jalen Hurts also seems to be pretty low, especially if we just take out that game last week for the Green Bay Packers against the Carolina Panthers where Rico Dowdle was able to go off against them. And I say that because prior to that, teams have been able to kind of establish the run, get that going, but then they were able to beat you on some gouge plays throwing the football. And I do think with that kind of extra week off, I think A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are both going to be able to get going in this game. And I would argue their lines are also both too low as well. You know, if we're betting on Jalen Hurts potentially for over his passing yards there, I think I'd rather get to like A.J. Brown for over his receiving yards. He's the type of receiver I think will end up being able to beat the Packers DBs. But you also have Devonta Smith at 51.5 receiving yards. I typically don't like to bet on both of them, but their lines are both pretty low. Again, it's because the Packers defense has been very, very solid. And a bet like I almost don't hate is actually just betting on them like to get a long reception because with obviously Micah Parsons there, they might try to blitz. The Eagles are going to look for more one-on-one matchups where Jalen Hurts can just throw up a deep ball and hope it lands. And so I think that ends up being a decent way to bet on the Eagles because when we dive into like the prop bets that we're getting for them guys, there's really, again, not much there. I wish there was. I wish I could give you guys a lot of conviction here and say I know exactly how the game's going to go. And if anyone is ever saying that, to just be a little bit weary about that, but that's just not what we have. I don't mind Devonta Smith to go over 4.5 receptions. I think that's a decent one, but I think I'd rather do probably the longest reception or his over receiving yards. And then same thing for A.J. Brown. I think this should end up being a decent A.J. Brown game. And like his over 4.5 receptions is appealing. His over, again, longest reception is appealing as well. But I also think the anytime touchdown prop bets that we're getting for these players that I already mentioned that I like, A.J. Brown, Christian Watson, Smith, And you can even go to Luke Musgrave, who I know I've had some positive outlooks for Luke Musgrave and I was dogging him a little bit, but I do think that those are kind of logical bets as, increased risk payout bets, but I don't mind the spots there. It's a bet on that game total being more correct, 45 total points. But again, I think that we don't know what to expect in this game. We just don't. But I think those end up being decent spots for us on this slate. And then one last bet I do want to mention, Brandon McManus to get over 6.5 kicking points is one of the better kind of standard bets that we get, non-fantasy score bets. 52% likely for it to hit. The issue with him is he has been struggling lately. He got injured, probably rushed back a little bit from injury. Now he's dealing with a little bit of mental struggles. And honestly, last week's game against the Panthers was a terrible weather game. I'm sure you guys have seen the clips of both Jordan Love and also Bryce Young throwing two terrible INTs, which if you were watching the game, that was just based off of the wind. The ball got in the air too much. It was a windy game, gusty as well, and the gust just caught those balls. So that is also true for McManus, who, this needs to be a good game for him. And so if he was good to go, if he was healthy, I would feel pretty confident about this one. That's another wrinkle to this slate that we have. And so let's go ahead and get to the bet of the day, guys. I hope tomorrow that I wake up in the PrizePicks optimizer or underdog optimizer is telling us, oh, these are 3 great bets. Let's go ahead and make them. By all means, we could do that. I will say Luke Musgrave, you could do over 2.5 receptions. You could do him to score an anytime touchdown. I am kind of going with the data here where he does have a 53% likelihood for the under to hit. You also could go with him and Saquon Barkley for under their fantasy scores there on underdog. I mean, not a terrible idea. Those are the 2 best prop bets that we have. Again, I don't really like it. I do think Saquon Barkley is going to score a touchdown, so that's the tough part there, and it is a tighter slate. So I'm probably gonna, full disclosure, I'm probably gonna watch this game as more, well, obviously a Packers fan, but more of just like an NFL fan. It should be a fun game to watch. Hopefully, again, these are 2 good teams. We don't necessarily know what to expect, and that is what makes them good teams, right? I wish I could give you more. I do. I wish I could. I know some people are gonna hate that. Some people are gonna respect it. But that's my goal with every video, guys, is to break it down properly for you guys to, paint the correct picture and give you guys the proper expectations for that slate. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel as well. If you guys would like access to the 9-to-5 PrizePicks and Underdog Optimizers, head on over there. You guys get access to all the other tools available on the website for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. Appreciate you being here. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.